want to be able to show the Genius live. So let's just make sure everything's hooked up on YouTube, and then we'll get started. We have a great conversation all about Young Living oils, oils on point, the power of the Genius, really amazing things to share with you. Okay, so we have that ready to go. And this is Dr. Ariel Policano. We want to make sure that we're recording today. Okay, a warm welcome. And thank you for being here for the Frequency of 528 podcast. We live stream every week, Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. We always have guests coming up on not next week, but June 30th. So just a couple of weeks out, we're going to be having a guest, which is one of our practitioners. Let's just make sure I got the day right. June 30th, and we'll be telling you about some additional guests coming up. Karen Reifinger, one of our Genius Practitioners, is going to be sharing with us information about her EES system. And you may have seen that on Unified and on In 5D. And she's going to share all about her EES system. And we're going to be hearing from other Genius Practitioners as well as other people from the world of energy and vibrational healing. So I really appreciate you being here. If you don't know me, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I teach all about the Genius Biofeedback system and how it can change your life and how you can use the principles of natural health along with your Genius system. So with that, to get started, I'd like to, I'm going to start to get my guest ready to come up here and join me here. And just to say a little bit about her, this is Kelley Huggett is going to be joining us today. She's one of our very longest users of the Genius. She's a mother of 3, and she's going to share with us how she uses the Genius for her family and how she has avoided other expensive, shall we say, interventions. I think you all know what I'm talking about, and gone to the Genius to solve a lot of her issues that she's faced with her family. And she's a huge fan of Young Living oils, specifically Carolyn Mind's version of Oil on Point. And she can go right to the point in the Genius and solve so many things. So we're going to hear her amazing perspective about this. So give me one moment to bring you up here, Kelley, and then you'll be able to open up your microphone and camera. So there we go. And so thank you everybody for joining us. And those of you who are on YouTube, thanks for streaming live with us. When Kelley gets on, I want to share with her and with you some new accessories that we've been researching here at Genius Biofeedback. So when you're ready, Kelley, we'll have you come and join. I'll have you send you some information there to be able to join us as well. So thank you everybody in the chat. Feel free to chat with each other. Feel free to say hi. Okay, there we go. All right, Kelley, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So we talk often. It's nice to see you and get to spend time with you. So tell us just, well, let me just say, first of all, welcome and thank you for taking time out of your day to join me.
Oh my gosh, Ariel, I cannot thank you enough for all that you do for our community, and anything that comes up, we can always count on you and the Genius to find a solution.
And the Genius, a lot, the Genius. But I want to talk about your perspective. But before we get started, you know, Kelley's a longtime Genius user. And I just want to introduce a few things that I've been researching, because once we get started on what Kelley has to share with you, we're just going to want to dive into her information. So I better do this first. I wanted to set up the camera, but let me see if I can just get this here. This is actually a rodent coil. And this rodent coil, the energy that comes from, this is like sacred geometry that this is produced with. And like I said, next time I'll set up the other camera, but you can really see how beautiful this instrumentation is. And you can kind of see it this way as well. And so what we actually have is an apparatus here to set it up to connect it to the Genius. And so the Genius can actually flow or send the frequencies into the rodent coil, and it produces coherent frequencies that people have reported heal their depression, help to raise their energy. And so it's another way of interacting with the frequencies from the Genius. And I'm working with this, and I'll have more experiments and more information to report to everyone soon about that rodent coil. But it's just a tremendous find for using the Genius. So with that in mind, what do you think of the rodent coil? What's your first intuition about it, Kelley?
Oh, I would love to know more about it, because anything, I mean, the Genius alone is incredible. And then adding additional accessories makes it even more powerful. So not that you, I mean, in so many ways, I find that just running the frequencies or even testing in the synergistics moves energy in such powerful ways that it's like hitting the bullseye every time you run it, and it gives you such powerful results that you can just clear layer after layer after layer so quickly. We live in a society that we all think more is better. And when you use the Genius, you realize it literally is just a thought or quick energy that can move something so essential, that can make such a difference. So it really opens your mind to the possibility.
Yes, to the possibilities,
Yes.
possibilities. And I want to talk all about you and where you're from and your perspective. There's just one more thing I want to share with everyone. Another piece that I got was this, let me make sure I'm saying it right, a Lakhovsky circle. Let me see if I can get it up to the camera properly. Do you see this sort of interesting configuration of sacred geometry?
Wow.
And there was a book. This is in and of itself an energy generator. And what you could do is you could put this on the remedy plate and charge this particular thing up, put it in your pocket, and it's got specific energies that it generates. It's let's see, it's called an antenna. And it says that the antenna can help people, you can harmonize EMF with it, and it actually will increase your meditation. And it also, people have reported that when they use this or hold this in their pocket, that they experience less insomnia, less chronic pain, fewer migraines, less chronic fatigue, less depression, and less sciatica or back pain. Those things have been recorded. So there's something about the way that those lines interact with each other. And Lakhovsky wrote a lot about frequencies and radiations from the universe in his book, The Secrets of Life, George Lakhovsky. And then he came up with this famous, there's actually been other iterations of this antenna, sometimes big forms of this, of a wave generator. So it's exciting and stressful times that we live in, but it's a big time of tremendous discoveries. So with thinking about that, let's go ahead and Kelley, tell us just a little bit about what your discoveries you've made. You have a very compelling story about what led you to the Genius, and tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. Well, and I think the things that you just showed, really what the Genius has really highlighted for me is that it really goes to show that we are much more energetic bodies than physical bodies. And when you go ahead and change the energetics within you, it makes such a tremendous difference. And you can see that just by scanning. If you have a thought, and let's say, and you scan the aura, you can see, was it positive or negative? And if there is any darkness in that aura, you just have a positive thought, and then you scan again, and it's amazing how it changes. And so that's really what happened to me.
Well, let's do that. Actually, let's just do that live. Can we do it for you?
Sure.
Let's just have some fun. What I'm going to do is I think I have your profile in here. If not, I think I can just whip it up really quickly. So I'm going to put your profile in here, and then let's record your voice and your picture, and let's have you think. Let's not think the thought yet. Let's just think about other things for the moment. But just tell us, as I'm getting all of that ready, something happened with your family that was very compelling, that kind of shaped your whole paradigm.
So I have 3 kids. I was raised to be a very perfectionistic mom, do everything that you're supposed to, perfectionistic person in anything that I do. I was raised by a father who was military captain in the Vietnam War, high level IBM. You do exactly what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. You follow orders. And so as I had 3 children, I did exactly what the pediatrician said. I followed it to a T. And there were a few things with my first two kids that weren't that big of a deal. And then my third one came along, had a slight fever at 10 days old. And because they tell you as you leave the hospital, if there's any fever, immediately call. So he had a slight fever of 100.4, not 104, but 100.4.
So that's a mild fever, but he's young.
So I immediately called, and keep in mind, he has two older siblings. So I immediately call, and the pediatrician tells me, immediately take him to the emergency room.
At 100.4?
100.4.
How old was he at the time? He was how old?
10 days. 10 days old.
10 days. Okay, gotcha.
Took him to the emergency room, and all of a sudden they're spinning us through this whole process of all these tests, spinal tap, and all this craziness, and forced me to put him in the hospital on IV antibiotics for 2 days.
Oh my God. That's so like, now, let me just ask you something. I know what they were probably afraid of. They were probably afraid of spinal meningitis. Is that what they said?
You know what? I was just a mom who they didn't tell me anything.
Okay.
And because I knew that antibiotics weren't good for us, I dealt with yeast with my other two kids. I fought to the death of no.
I don't want them. And they won out.
They essentially told us they were going to put us in jail if we didn't do it. So we put him in the hospital. I stayed with him for 2 days, IV antibiotics, everything's fine. So 2 months later, he ends up with this gnarly virus, vomiting and diarrhea coming out both ends. On day 5, he's peeing blood. We end up back in the hospital.
Kelley, hang on 1 second, because we want to hear your story for sure. Just hold that thought just for 1 second. Don't. You're good to go. Okay, I'm so sorry. All my computer crashed. And you were right in the middle of a very important part of the story. That is terrifying. And you know what I was thinking as this was rebooting, it's so upsetting is that the whole medical community did not respect your decision and did not listen to you.
Exactly. And so essentially the first decision, what it came down to is the first decision, put him back in the hospital because the IV antibiotics wiped him out. We spent 2 weeks in the hospital the second time. They never figured out what was wrong with him. He literally almost died. His veins collapsed. We almost lost him. I almost watched right in front of my eyes lose my 2-month-old. And there was nothing I could do. And so I vowed from then on that I would figure out what the problem is. And when you're in that situation, you become open to anything, that you'll try anything. So we ended up.
That's what I was thinking, is it must be been that moment where it's so awful, but it kind of opened you up to new ideas.
Exactly. So one thing led to the next. We ended up at a doctor that did muscle testing. It was so dead on accurate. I sat there and laughed. I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever done, but it works. And then a doctor that I found that was written up in Oprah magazine introduced us to the next level. And she was actually the person that introduced me to the Genius. And the reason it came about is we leave for the summer and I didn't have all my brilliant doctors that I had found. And I was like, I don't know if I can figure out how to work this, but I'm going to try. And I was blown away at what I was able to do with it. And just by moving what the Genius allows you to do is it tunes into the bullseye of solutions. And instead of thinking when you read something, oh, I think I need that, you can test it and say, okay, is this going to help me or not? And the Genius allows you to do that. And I truly feel we're investors. And I will truly say that this is the best investment that we've ever made. In fact, as I was getting on today, my husband said to me, will not spend, there's no difference to him between 5 cents and $5,000. He literally said to me, like 5 cents to him is as big of a decision as $5,000. So it's an absolute miracle that he let me try this to begin with. But he just said to me as I was getting on the call today, he said, well, make sure that you tell them that the Genius has really helped our marriage. And
that's amazing.
We're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And it literally allows you to move through, like when I think about the amount of stresses and issues and things that we've had with our kids and between the two of us, and then all of the things that have happened over the past 2 years with the
right things that you're dealing with. I know things that you're dealing with in your local community. But what people need to know is that when Kelley faces anything, she's always using synergistics to find a solution, and she'll go right to the issue. So Kelley, if it's okay with you, can I record your voice and then we can work on that, how you change the aura picture and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So let's go ahead and record your voice and I'll count down so I can get you ready to record. I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
A-E-I-O-U, 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 A-E-I-O-U.
Perfect. And we'll just go ahead and get your picture. And for those of you who are watching on the chat, we actually, on YouTube on the chat, we actually do have access to our YouTube chat today. So if you're chatting in YouTube, you can say hi to us and ask questions of Kelley. And of course, in our live stream on Zoom, you can ask questions of her as well. So what I really is amazing about you, Kelley, is that you have one of the best abilities to use the Genius as a practitioner of anybody that I've known. Oh, let's get you again. I'm so sorry. Let me get you where you're smiling and at the camera. So that way you're happy with that. That's a great picture. So, what happens for Kelley that I think is amazing is that she's able to balance for a very short amount of time. So Kelley, what's your perspective on that? Because we do hear from some people that they like to just keep balancing the whole day. How do you sort of see that timing?
Well, gosh, it started for me when I first started running the Genius. I started running it at 10 minutes and it was making me very tired. So the doctor that told me about it, she said, back it off, run less. So then I went down to 2 minutes. And then from there, I kept backing it up. And what I started finding was that I could run it for less than a minute, a lot of times 15 to 30 seconds.
That's what I wanted to get at. I think that's so unique. Why do you think running it for a minute or 30 seconds or 15 seconds, why do you think you get such good results? Tell us a little bit about your perspective on time related to results.
Well, like I said earlier, the Genius works in a whole different way. So we're a culture that we feel that we have to be clubbed over the head and more is better. And literally we are this energetic body that you just move whatever the energy is. And what I find is that most things in the synergistics within the etheric, the mind, the body, the spirit, I find most things are in the mind And it's literally just an emotion that is sticking to a body part, which is what Carolyn Mine has done so brilliantly, is each emotion sticks to a specific place. And when you get the right oil, the right essential oil in the right place, it's like hitting the delete button.
So we're going to talk about this book and the brilliant Carolyn Mine, who you actually know personally, lives not too far away from you. We're going to talk about the brilliance of this. But I think what you're alluding to is when you get to the right frequency, everything can change.
It's the bullseye. The Genius allows you to hit the bullseye, and
you can test for the right frequency.
Exactly. And whether it's, what I like to do is go straight to solutions, whether it's Nogier, Bach flower. I love the Bach flowers, or any of the custom panels. I'm not worried about.
So let's look. So this is your aura right now. Okay. Yes. So what would be the thought that you would think that could change this?
You know, the only thing that, like,
it could be an affirmation. It could be a positive statement.
You know,
it could be something to bless everybody who's on the podcast or live chat or something like that.
So when I referenced that earlier, what I have found sometimes is, like, out of the blue, I will scan the aura and there'll be something dark, like a dark cloud. And I'm like, what is that? And I'll just think something different, and I'll scan it again. And I'll be like,
but there's a little bit of a glitch that you can't scan it pure. Like, we can't really rescan it at this moment. We'd have to run at least a small amount of frequencies, like maybe 1 second of solfeggio. Do you do that?
Yes. So exactly what you just said is you have to do something to get it to scan again.
So, but let's do that again. Let's do that right now. I'll just bring up the solfeggios, but then let's combine it with your thought. So what is sort of the nature? Maybe you can just make it into a statement and just sort of say it a couple of times. And I could test an affirmation for you if you want me to.
Oh yeah, do that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
Wait, we're already here. Go back to the solfeggios. Let's see what go back. Let's see what.
Absolutely.
Okay, so transformation and miracles, expressing uniqueness, awakening intuition, and undoing situations and facilitating change.
That has your name on it.
I think 417. I think 417. We've got a lot of divisiveness. Let me tell you, there's a lot of divisiveness in our neighborhood right now.
The world.
Let me tell you, the Genius gets me through so many situations, and there are people in this world right now that have a very negative bent on some things and are trying to project things onto other people.
Yeah.
And Genius allows you to do, I think a lot of Genius users are probably empathetic. What I have learned through this whole situation is the world has absorbers and they have projectors. I'm an absorber. And I think that that's part of the reason why I and many Genius users can run it so quickly, is I am like a vacuum, and I will go around and vacuum up everyone's problems and issues and take them on myself. And what the Genius allows me to do is facilitate the change of that and not carry around everyone's burdens.
So what can we do in terms of what kinds of positive change can you think about so that we can see that aura change? Maybe people become less divisive, or they see things more from a community, or what would you like to do?
Well, and I think just when you're faced with those situations, turning it into the loving energy of catching yourself in that, okay, there's a misunderstanding, or I just need to send that person light and love. And you say this a lot. Even though someone may be attacking you or a group that you believe in, you can change that immediately. You can turn that around by bringing more positivity, light, and love into the situation.
So let's project that out actually to everybody who's listening. Let's just consciously project out all of that love, compassion, finding resolution, and you hold that thought. And then we'll see if a thought can change the aura. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we have to let's just do it for like a millisecond. We do have to hit quick balance. And even if we just do it for 3 seconds, okay? But that is going to be combined with Kelley thinking the thoughts of positivity. So let's see was that enough time, Kelley?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's go ahead and begin the analysis, holding that energy of the thoughts of love and compassion and people reuniting and finding common ground for the better good. And let's see how the aura has changed. Very interesting. So many experiments that you can do with the Genius. It really allows you to explore the world around you and the effects of the world around you. So that's very interesting. It did definitely change the aura. What I noticed is it took out the dark edges. So if we look at the comparison, and that always reminds me of something I've talked about in classes, which is the reset. And you literally sort of, that energy is an energy of resetting, of rethinking things. So as we look at this and we go here, what's your intuition about the difference?
Well, I tend to be a very passionate, action-oriented person, can sometimes get ungrounded. And so the first one with that bright pink, there's probably some ungrounding there. I tend to live up in the cloud, that I tend to live up in the clouds of opportunity. To me, there's always, every situation, no matter how bad it is, when I look at what happened with my son and him almost dying, it literally gave me liberty of health.
Yes. I mean, that's an amazing perspective. Most people wouldn't see it that way. They'd be lifelong upset, angry, and resentful. And you saw it as being transformational.
Exactly. So no matter what problem we're faced with, there's always an upside. You just can't see it as you're living through it. Like, it was awful as we went through that whole situation with Brendan, 2 weeks in the hospital. I was like, oh my God, if I can get through this, I can get through anything, with 3 kids. So it was awful, but it was almost like I had to go through it, because there's no way that I would be able to do all that I am doing today. I mean, you can throw anything at me and I can transform it in minutes.
That's amazing. Let's ask also if there's anybody on here who'd like to volunteer on the live Zoom. You will have one of the most interesting interpretations of what's going on with you that we really ever have, because Kelley is going to use the oil on point and also some of her understanding of oil on point, from her own experience, to talk to you about maybe some of the root cause of things that are coming up for you. So if somebody wants to jump in the chat and give us a quick volunteer, we will proceed and do a scan on you. We'll wait for somebody to come forward and maybe volunteer. So if you're there and you feel that you'd be willing to volunteer and be part of our class today, we'd love to work with you, especially if you're interested in essential oils. Then we would be more than happy to do that. So Lay, you are the first one to jump in there. So please send us your date of birth in the chat so that we can work with you. Now, Kelley, for you, over the years, your husband was extremely skeptical. They will just need your date of birth. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to get that set up for everyone. And so tell us a little bit about your husband becoming less skeptical and what motivated him to say, okay, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, so in our household, what I have learned over time is I am the yes to anything. Like, our kids will come to me, I see opportunity in anything, even if I'm like, I don't know about that, but I'll be like, well, maybe we can find something that will work. But what I've learned over time in 25 years of marriage is I am the automatic yes. Wes is the automatic no to everything.
That's your husband. Yeah.
And so when I came to him, we were originally spending $10,000 on natural health, but it was working. Like, I would take the kids.
You're saying $10,000 a year on different natural health, doctors, remedies, things like that. But
it was, even though it was expensive, it was much different than going to the pediatrician, where the pediatrician is like, well, I don't know what's wrong. I can give you this antibiotic, which then causes more problems. So when I was told about the Genius, I was like, I at least want to try it, and talked him into it. It was a long discussion, a lot of promises I had to, it was a tough sell, but he agreed. And what I will tell you over time, now it obviously, you have to work with it, learn it. There's so many different opportunities within the Genius. It takes a little bit of time. And Ariel, your training, I've become friends with some of the world's greatest doctors. And thanks to your training, they now come to me for solutions. So the opportunities that it has given me, and for him to just say to me today, make sure that you tell them that this really helps our marriage too. Like, he can be a little
That's amazing that he said that. That's beautiful, really.
Well, exactly. And he's under a lot of stress, and his personality is that I'm very even keeled, but he's more the automatic, immediate blow up. And then he releases the energy, and then he's usually fine. But as he gets older, he holds on to it a little longer. So yeah, what the Genius allows me to do is I'll be like, here, take this Bach flower. Or if he's really upset, or if my kids are not working, here's the other brilliant thing about this, is that my kids don't have to do anything. I've had the craziest situations where my kids are getting into trouble, doing something that they're not supposed to do, in a bad mood, not listening. And you just go into the Genius.
Typical kids. And you can go in there and you can actually sort of switch, give them like a break energetically. You can help them energetically. And I know that occasionally when you're stressed out, you can even tell if they're sort of fibbing a little bit, if they're being honest with you and stuff like that.
So many things. You can use it as a lie detector. I mean, this is
for your kids only, not for everybody else, because you have to, obviously, if your kids are, under 18 and so forth.
Exactly. And then my oldest is an arguer and a debater, and will tell you none of my stuff works. But he knows that he's in college now and got a virus or something right during exams as school was ending, and experienced the dysfunction of he goes to one of the nation's top universities, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And so I can't say this, but I would go into the Genius and start figuring out what the problem was, and I could run the frequency. Now, he'll argue with me that I just don't say anything. He'll argue with me, your stuff doesn't work, Mom, but I'll go in and run it, and then all of a sudden he feels better. So,
I mean, that's amazing. I love that you integrate it so much. Like, I feel like every family could potentially have the Genius and benefit from it. And it's just like, you have your refrigerator, you have your stove, you have your washing machine. Like, you wouldn't live without those things. And the Genius, I feel, is this integral part that could be used in that way, just things that you need. And you're sort of the living example of doing that and really making it work for your entire family, which is pretty cool.
Well, exactly. And especially with all the stuff that's going, all these different things that we're getting hit with, and fears. And I mean, because I have the Genius, as soon as lockdowns happened here in California, we immediately left. And I thought, okay, this is going to be the biggest test of my abilities. We also own property in Hawaii, and we decided we were getting out of here and not staying for Newsom's lockdown, but we didn't know what was going to happen and where things would go. And when we were at the airport, we were the only ones at TSA, very few people on the plane. And I thought, well, we're not going to have healthcare and our regular healthcare in Hawaii, but let's see what happens. And because I have the Genius, I was able to navigate anything. And we actually got the thing that's going around while my kids are on a water ski team. So the following summer, And because of the Genius, I was able to scan minute by minute by minute, figure out what was needed, and we sailed through it.
That is absolutely awesome. Well, let's should we bring Lay on, and you can give her your interpretation of Oil on Point and using sort of things for a short amount of time and your whole sort of perspective. We could even maybe do some synergistics.
Yes,
And
definitely.
if we get to another one after, then Linda, you'll be next. We could definitely work with you. And so, Lay, if you're ready to open up your camera and we can get your voice and picture, that would be perfect if you're able to do that. Okay, Lay, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Do you own the Genius?
Yes, I do.
You don't have to. Nobody asked you to be here, but just curious, just to get your perspective. Well, Kelley has a unique way of approaching the Genius. So what we're going to do is we're going to have her sort of get some information from you in just a moment. First, we'll go ahead and record your voice. So I'll cue you and I'll have you say the AEIOU. Now, you know how to do that, right?
Do you want me to say my name and the AEIOU?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
Lee Karaoka, AEIOU, 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 AEI.
That's perfect. Okay. And now we're going to grab your picture here in just a moment. So let me go ahead and do that now for you. Just go ahead and get that voice interpretation. Then, of course, you can work remotely from anywhere, which is wonderful. Big smile. Wonderful. So now we have our photo. We can analyze the photo. I mean, that's amazing that you can just work with anyone from around the world with the Genius by using this method. By the way, Lay, where are you joining us from?
Hawaii.
You are. Oh, that's wonderful. Kelley owns property there and goes out there so she might be your neighbor or something.
Where are you?
I'm in Pearl City.
We have a place on the North Shore at Chun's.
Oh, that's nice. Too far to drive though. Too many tourists out there.
Yes, definitely. But you know what, that brings up a good point. As you scan this, there's so many things that you can do with the Genius. We've used it to help the turtles. We have, you can use it on property. The sky's the limit as to what you can do with this. So
Lay, what was your goal? And I appreciate you volunteering today. Did you have anything particular you wanted us to help you with?
Getting my diabetes or my glucose numbers under 100 every day.
Oh, that's a great goal. I love you. I hear determination in your voice.
Thank you. I'm trying to be.
That's really exciting. Well, I know we can help you with that. So it's a wonderful goal. And anything else you can tell us about yourself that you think is important for Kelley to know, because she's going to kind of think about your case. And she usually comes up with something where she's able to go to some of the root cause that might be around this issue.
I'm also hoping to make this Genius thing into a business, but I don't quite know how to do that.
Okay, well, we can help you with that. We have a business course and even a business membership that can be really helpful. And we have people who've been really successful in building their business. But anything else you can tell us just about your current situation? For example, stress, not stressed, how's your mood? Are you sleeping? Things like that.
I'm a caregiver for my husband, and he's a paraplegic, and he has constant or generally chronic pain. So I've been trying to use the Genius for that. I try to use it on myself at least once a day because I was having neuropathy. I am also using an infrared stem cell patch, and that seems to be helping, and the Genius tends to complement that. But I'm not able to get my glucose numbers under 100 every day. It's like 150 and sometimes below.
Okay, well, right there, I mean, taking care of your husband, that is so compassionate and kind of you, and it could definitely be stressful at different times. So, Kelley, what's your take so far? Do you have any perspective just hearing what Lay has had to say about her situation?
Well, I think the first thing I would look at is pancreas. Like, is there balance in the pancreas. And then secondly, that's a lot of stress to have to be the caregiver of someone else. So is there any suppression or, do you feel that you're being inhibited in any way from doing the things that you want to be doing, which is a natural,
or a natural feeling. Let's go to while you're thinking about that, Kelley, sort of sorting it out, any impression of her aura?
Yeah, she has a lot of light, bright colors. And then look at that vertical line is so powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It makes you think that it's sort of like describes a little bit about her, that she is determined, she is resilient, and she's very clear when she wants to get something accomplished. I think that vibrancy sort of comes through in what we see in the aura, because everybody has different things that express in their energy field. And they're also telling us something about sort of the person's situation, but could also be about their natural constitution. What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. She, just like what I described earlier, I'm a very passionate, it looks like she has a lot of the same.
I'm sure that's no accident that she volunteered while you're here to do cases today.
Yes. Good energy.
Yeah.
I'm
and so, go ahead.
I'm kind of like her in that I see more possibilities, more positive than negative.
That's nice.
So my cup's always more fuller than empty, and sometimes that gets me into trouble.
Kelley might say the same thing about her then.
Oh, absolutely. I'm an overcommitter. I think I can do anything. And then time sets in, but then I'll stay up as late as I need to. And then that's the beauty of the genius, is you just transform whatever the adrenal fatigue is.
So Kelley, what do you want me to start looking at as you were thinking about this case from your perspective on Young Living Oils on Point, and also your perspective on Chinese medicine? I know that you use this book as a big resource. What should I start looking at?
You know what? Just go ahead. I would go back to the Young Living Oil on Point.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Put those into.
Well, let's just take the top one. White Angelica on the heart protector for the point of the emotion relentless. Now, that right there, she probably is a relentless protector of her husband and relentless in working on her own stuff. And so that's interesting. And White Angelica is a really special oil, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's very spiritual. It's it's one of those Gary Young blends that
exactly
is brilliant. And I actually think I need to check on this, but it may actually, I'm not sure if White Angelica is one of the ones that they've discontinued, but that brings
That's
up.
right. No, I think it is. So we can only get it in frequency form. I think it's very hard to obtain. That's that occurred to me as well. And when we go to the essential oils, when we go to Caroline Mine's book, it's really, really fascinating. And we can look it up from the perspective of the emotion. And let's see what she says about the emotion of relentless. The other side of the emotion of a relentless, it says emotion, then other side, she says freedom. The way out is I'm in the flow, and the alarm point is the heart protector. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that probably goes, I mean, think about freedom. There's probably a subconscious emotion there that what I would do is that's
what you alluded to. That's what you said, because she's so compassionate. Of course, she's there for her husband, but she's also trying to incorporate the freedom of being able to do her own things that she loves as well, to sort of make them both exist simultaneously.
Exactly.
So that's really interesting.
So what I would typically do is I would just put all the reds and the blues into Progressive Insights.
But what I also like to do is doesn't she have the alarm points in here? Okay, yeah, I'm looking all over this book because I'm just trying to find the heart protection. So heart protector is 1, 2, 3. It's on the third rib, and it's sort of out over here. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing here. So it's sort of out over here. That's where heart protector is. So that might be a point that you want to massage, or very interesting point. But what I wanted to do, Kelley, is I wanted to sort of unpack some of these individual points, and then also just hear your perspective about them. But then, but what you want to do is you want to put all the reds and the blues and see what progressive insights comes up with, right?
So what I find the beauty of the Genius is it just hits the bullseye. So you put it in progressive insights and it spits out on top.
All right, let's do that then. So what Kelley wants to do is put all the reds and the blues into progressive insights and then retest them, because you often get a higher level of prioritization. So we use the bulk drag and drop function to basically drop all the reds and all the blues in. We got 100 items that way. And that bulk drag and drop does sort of expedite everything. So now we're going to see, so the very, very one on the top, which is fascinating, sandalwood on the arteries point for clearing the emotion of dread.
So
what are your thoughts?
Maybe she could give, is there any kind of monotony of your day? What I would do is test that top one in synergistics and see if it comes up on top. And
let's look at, could we look at dread? Let's look at dread and what she says about dread is, the other side of dread is passion. Whoa. And it says, I embrace my essence.
That's incredible. But
when we say the emotion or the feeling of dread, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Nothing really.
Okay. What about, but it's interesting. The other side of dread is being passionate. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is.
And then the next one is magnify your purpose on the allergy point for the clearing the emotion of victim consciousness. Magnify your purpose. So to me, that means focus on your purpose, what you do feel your purpose is, so you can be able to bring it up and expand it and really focus on what you want. So tell us right now, and it could relate, you said to Genius Business, what do you most want to happen in your life?
I want to become a successful healer.
Oh, that's beautiful. You probably already intuitively are. And says the opposite of victim consciousness is inner strength, connecting with your power or connecting with your inner strength. And then the way out is I am cause. What do you think Carolyn means by that, Kelley?
I am cause. It's what we've all learned through the Genius is that we have the power. We're in the driver's seat. You clear these subconscious emotions that we don't realize. There's certain things that we understand where we can say, okay, I have anxiety. And you put the oil on for anxiety and it's gone. But there's certain things that are underlying coming through our ancestors, our DNA, are that as we live our current experience that we can't necessarily identify. And that's what the Genius allows you to go in and do and clear that. And then it's like opening up the doors to whatever was stuck.
That's really fascinating. That's interesting, your perspective on that. I was going to try to connect and do a scalar broadcast, do a remote broadcast with the rodent coil. But I think when I plug it in, I might do this for you. Maybe we'll take it offline in a moment and then try and experiment as we're talking a little bit more. The next one is, did I skip one of them? So we did one, we did two. Longevity on the vibration point for the emotional clearing of being choked. Wow, that's deep. Any thoughts on that one?
For me, or
yeah, from you, from just looking at these top three, I think they're all kind of related, Kelley.
That's what I was going to say. It tells a story. It's all related. And like, I know for me personally, like when I was 2 years old, I was almost choked by a babysitter. And and when you look at that emotion, and especially when you're in a situation that she is in, is it's unintentional, but there's some physical things that are holding her back from being able, and she's got a great attitude about it, which I'm sure helps facilitate positivity. And then these things become like, the clearing these things opens up the roadblocks that potentially were there, that then allows her to be open. It's like the law of attraction, where you clear those things, then all of a sudden people potentially would just start coming to her automatically, because
because they see her as the example. All of these frequencies, sandalwood on the arteries for the feeling of emotion of dread, the opposite, or the way out that Carolyn describes, is about freedom, experiencing freedom, or the other side, she calls it. And then victim consciousness was I am the cause, which means I choose. I'm not a victim at all. I am consciously choosing my experience. And then being choked isn't really this like choking, it's a sensation, a feeling of energetically being your life force being choked off in some way. And the other side that she talks about is empowerment. Well, these all three are very related. And you could almost see that Lay is sort of in that process of that experience. She never said, I have to do this, I'm obligated to do it. She's like, I do this. And then I'm trying to create balance, to create my healing. I want my healing powers to come out. I want to be a successful healer. So she is in that sort of almost that moving process into that more just almost there, really empowered and being free and choosing her life and how she wants it to be.
Now look at the fifth, humility on pancreatic.
That's what I was just looking at on the pancreatic duct, which is absolutely related. Although the duct itself is not as related. The duct is related to enzymes, enzymatic activity. So it would be, let's see if there's anything else here that is about, I don't see anything right off the bat, but the pancreas can be dualist, like it can be two-sided. If you burn out the enzymes, it can affect the blood sugar. And if you burn out the blood sugar, it can affect the enzymes. So it still could be significant.
Or maybe that creates what I've found with using the Genius is it's like there's a blockage somewhere, and you open up the energy of that blockage, and it just opens up whatever needs to open up. And maybe that could be what would be happening within the blood sugar, is maybe there's a blockage in the duct and it's holding
That's
back.
absolutely possible. That's absolutely possible. Well, let's look at that one. It's for the energy of the emotion of being misunderstood. So, Lay, do you feel at all misunderstood?
On occasion. We also live with my parents.
There's a great fodder for being misunderstood on any day of the week by the parents.
For the most part, yes.
But so the opposite of, or the way out from misunderstood is supported. So does that mean, Kelley, that feeling that you are supported by the universe?
Yeah, I think just overall support.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back, if you're feeling unsupported, that goes back to your ligaments and that's your whole system.
Mm-hmm.
So your support system is that's extremely important, because when you feel supported, you feel that you can do anything.
That's absolutely true. And it says that the affirmation is the truth supports me. The truth supports me. Isn't that interesting? Now, let's go ahead. Now, first of all, I wanted to see if I could connect a broadcast plate. Let's see if this short circuits us, our view again. It probably will. So this one doesn't. It's interesting that the rodent coil, oh no, it does. It shorted it out. So let me try to run this for a moment. And what I'm going to do is I put a different broadcast plate on it. We even have another one, which is sort of this green one here. And it's sort of a broadcaster. And so I'm going to intend that the frequencies are being heightened being broadcast to her right now with this. And we can just stop the share for a moment. I'll see if I can show this together. So we've got all of this going on here, and we've got this broadcast plate. I can actually do this, and we'll see if the quality is different with the rodent coil as well. So when we think about the ones that we talked about, I don't know if we could see this, probably not going to see it as well, but let me just mention some of them again while we're doing this. Sandalwood on the arteries, magnify your purpose on the allergy point, longevity on the vibration point, Tansy, Idaho on the vocal cords, humility on the pancreatic duct. Is there one, Kelley, that has the biggest hit for you?
Well, I think that first one essentially describes her, a lot of her situation. And what I have learned through these brilliant doctors that we had to work with through Brendan is that the solutions, there's a pyramid. And when you get tip of the pyramid, everything falls in line. So it's not that it goes back to that, very quick or hit it over with a club. It literally is. So when you get that bullseye, everything moves and everything just flows.
I love that. So we're going to check this in Synergistics to see if that one about the pancreatic duct. But right now we're running the really powerful sacred geometry. We're actually running the frequencies through the rodent coil. And we're going to also just intend that this be broadcast out remotely. So really interesting just to see what the effect is. You can sort of see the connection here, and just some fun working. I don't know why, but this feels really like it has a really interesting emanation and a really interesting energy to it. It's sort of like a torsion field. And so it amplifies, but also runs coherent frequencies combined with the actual genius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it back up here so we can look at it. And we won't be able to have that connected at the same time. But then we're going to go to Synergistics. Now, when you're running this, Kelley, you're typically going just in Synergistics, and you're maybe running it, once you get the right one, you're running it for maybe a minute or something. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what I'll usually do is I'll test it in Synergistics and then run it for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, go back and test it in Synergistics to see if it's still even needed. But I would guess it's possible too, that based on all the discussion that we've had, that I've learned through the geniuses, just by identifying what is needed, sometimes our body just self-regulates. So
exactly. It takes it on immediately. So we should call this podcast like the lightning, the lightning speed potential of the genius, if you're using it the right way, because we're kind of in a lightning speed world where we need very, very quick things. We can't take all night or a week to take the frequencies. We need to speed this up so we can get moving on with what we were supposed to do. So let's remember now, it's humility on the pancreatic duct for the emotional clearing of being tired. And Soleil, how's your energy level?
Generally, I get up, tired. I get a pretty good night's sleep, but I don't think it's a restful sleep.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so let's go to the extra modules here, and we're going to go to something called Synergistics, and we can talk about it. And so it's humility on the pancreatic duct point for clearing the.
You need to
feeling.
You need to say young living humility.
Oh, well, it's essential young living. Really get me working here. Okay.
The perfectionist in me.
That's okay. So now we're going to hit the Synergistics and tell us a little bit about your thought process of why the Synergistics is so powerful, why you use it, that type of thing.
Well, I always test it just to see how important it is. And look at how strong that is.
Oh my gosh, it really is. Man, that's hitting some notes for her. So tell us a little bit about what you think about the red, with the mind being red.
Well, okay, so it's mostly in the spirit, it's spirit and body, right? Spirit, body, and etheric. There's no mind. Am I looking at that correctly?
Yeah, well, the mind, my take on it is the mind is usually the smallest one in most of these scans with synergistics. And so my take on this is that the mind is usually very, very skeptical. And so usually the mind just goes, no, this can't be associated with it. But the rest of your being kind of tells the truth. And it says, yes, it's the body. Yes, it's, spiritual. Yes, it's the energy fields are all yes. But I have to say, I think you were spot on. I mean, your intuition was like, that's the one. Is that your feeling as well?
Well, I would love to see how that changes her blood sugar.
Yeah, yes, that's essential oil humility on the pancreatic duct for clearing the emotion of feeling tired. And I think we said, we didn't maybe look, I think it's in her book under tired. I don't know if we looked this one up. Just tired, being tired is how she has it. Yeah, tired is then it's rejuvenated and I am renewed. So now let's go back to this and what we want to do. So do you ever just put this one singularly in the tray and run it for a minute?
Well, are you in the synergistics?
We were in synergistics. I'm just in, we have to go to humility on the pancreatic duct.
Yeah. What I would do is click that one on.
Yeah, click that one.
Insights. And I think it depends on the person, but
let's run it for a minute and then so what do we do after we run it for a minute? We recheck it in synergistics.
Then I test it again to see, and you could probably even just test it now. Like I find you can do it so fast. Sometimes it's super fast. Sometimes I have to do it a couple times, but I find more often than not that 10 to 15 seconds, it's been an evolution for me. It started off at 10 minutes, which was knocking me out and making me tired. And then I backed it off to 2 or 3 minutes and then backed it up to a minute and then backed it up to 15 to 30 seconds. And I've stayed with, I can clear most things in 15 to 30 seconds.
That's amazing. So say it again for everybody. How long?
I typically find that I can clear most things in 15 to 30 seconds. And a lot of times I don't need multiple, like I'll go through and test each one individually. And a lot of times once you get that first one, some of the others aren't even needed. Usually
she only got 13% rectification. So I'll run it for one more minute and then we'll test it again. But you have testimony to this because didn't one of your sons, something happened on the trampoline and you ran something in a very short time, he was better?
Oh, yes. Well, this is where this is so brilliant for a parent is he had a end of baseball championship party before they had the last game. He's the closing pitcher. He jumped up on a trampoline, didn't commit to the flip at the top and landed on his shoulder head. And I wasn't there. And my husband immediately called me and he goes, you need to do your magic. He has to pitch tomorrow and he can barely walk. And so we just cleared things, went through and cleared moment by moment and a combination of a couple different things. And he was on the pitcher's mound and helped them win the overall league the next day. And I can also tell you, I have a friend, this is where it's really brilliant. I have a friend whose daughter has schizophrenia and the daughter will go through and destroy their house. And she'll text me and say, Kelley, I need your help. Can you please help with Sally? And I will go scan the Genius, put the things that are out of balance. And sometimes it's so bad that I only have seconds, like she's desperate. I will go in and just do Bach flower, Nogier, just a couple different things, dump it into Progressive Insights, scan it, whatever comes up on top. I'll test it in Synergistics, run it for 10 or 15 seconds, and the rage completely stops.
That's amazing. I mean, I love your take on short and sweet balancing, because I think that is actually the truth, but it's our consciousness has not come to the conclusion that this could be done quickly and we could just be done with it. And then we could just move on to the next thing.
Exactly. Well, it literally, and I think at one point Ryan said, you want to tickle your system, wake up your system.
Right. Just little light taps. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, come on, wake up, get the energy flowing, and then you take it from here.
Exactly. And then yeah. So when you put this back in, what is it that you're looking for to see come up in synergistics when you retest it?
Okay. So that looks exactly the same, right?
We haven't hit begin analysis yet. I just want to, before we do it, what are you looking for?
Oh, for it to balance, for it to not be full, too full.
So now you want the circles not to fill up.
Well, either half, or that's where
let's see. So this is a retest to see, is the remedy or is that frequency still needed? Because she does such a short balancing. Is it still needed? Is it still needed to be run? So yes, it's now even more, Kelley, it's even more than it was before.
So to be honest with you, I would try 10 to 15 seconds, because I think keeping running it brings it over. Like I would just do
That's just a really interesting perspective, because so many people do the opposite. Like, people all talk to customer, our community, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, well, I go to bed and then I run it all night and then I get up and I start running it again in the morning. And because, more is better. And this is just really the polar opposite. So let's do that. Let's run it for 15 seconds and we can even count it down because we can see the 15 seconds here. So it's, can bring up some of the frequencies there. And by the way, we're going to have a new version coming out soon, probably in the next week or so. And the new version allows you to play some different tones besides just the chimes, the wind chimes. It's going to allow you to play nature sounds and a few other things, some animal birds chirping and other things that are really, really interesting, and are going to add a new dynamic and even allow you to test for which sounds would be the best sounds for that person at that time. So we're already actually more than 15 seconds as I've been talking, so we can stop that. And now we're going to go back to the synergistics. The only thing that's sort of bad about synergistics is you have to keep typing this in. So I've sort of memorized this point now. I think we've lost.
I copy it. I do copy paste.
Oh, you just do copy paste. I could have been pasting it the whole time.
Exactly.
Okay, so next time I'll know. Okay, so let's try this one more time. And let's see now what the synergistics tells us. Let's see. Okay, there you go. So now it is actually, if we compare the two, it has actually decreased. So this is a way that Kelley is able to measure if that frequency has been run for a long enough time. So let's look at the difference between the two. This is the first one, really it's the second one, but let's just say it's the first one. And then this is the one after running it for 15 seconds. And so the circles have filled up significantly less. And so for Kelley, the less that it's full, the more that this is no longer needed as a frequency. So with that in mind, let's go to the aura and see how the aura has changed. So let's go back to the aura itself. Here's the aura before, and let's see how the aura has changed. And also, maybe we can look at some Bach flower essences. I know Bach flowers are a big, something that you're very, very well versed in, Kelley. So let's see which, maybe if we just put in the flower essences to the mix. Whoa, I've never seen anything like this.
That's power. My husband has a very red aura, and that is just pure power.
I've never seen an aura like this before. I'm glad all the people who are watching are getting to see this live, but that's absolutely fascinating. The amazing thing about it is how totally consistent it is. It's very direct. Let's bring Leigh on. She was sort of walking around her home, so we just sort of stopped the video there. So let's have her come back. It's totally consistent. It's very direct. It's completely the energy of power, like you stated. Lay, I know it looks like you're out for a jog there or something. Tell us a little bit.
I'm out in my yard.
That's okay. I'm teasing you there. But what is your thought about seeing this aura? All about you just moved. You moved right clearly into your place of power. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's pretty powerful. I think, because I try to work on all the stuff that we were talking about today almost every day.
Oh, interesting.
To find my own power and to be able to say things in a compassionate, kind way and get the results I need.
I think you're achieving it. I mean, it's a lot of it.
Yeah.
We're seeing that, you're actually, you're on point as related to the oils on point.
Yeah. I'd like to continue running some of those panels that you were running on me later, but I guess I'll need to figure out how to get those panels, and I guess we could email back and forth about that, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I love it. I love this. I think you came on at the perfect time.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
So Kelley, is there anything that you would sort of put, a little like cherry on the top of this? Anything else that you would want to look at or talk about?
Gosh, I want her to test her blood sugar and see if she gets any change.
Test your blood sugar today and tomorrow and tell us if there's any change.
If you want to wait, I can give it to you like in a few minutes or a few seconds. I have a patch on that does it, a sensor.
All right, go ahead. It could depend on the time of day and whether you've eaten and things like that. But if she wants to do it, that's fine. Just for fun, let's just go ahead. I'm going to add in all of the flower essences and the reds and blues, and then just run it into. Did any of those go in though? I guess 12 of them went in. Let me just do it one more time. The blues and then the red. So that's all of them. And then let's just take it into Progressive Insights one more time, and let's just see if there's any flower essences. Okay, gentian. Kelley, give us your best take on gentian.
Oh, gentian is a very cool, calm person. Now, normally when gentian is needed, it's like the aura is a little bit blue. Now we saw a much different red. Is gentian, I don't see, is that what came up on top? Or is that the top flower essence?
The top, the top, it didn't come up on top, but what I did is I quickly looked through everything to try to find the top flower essence.
Oh, flower
essence. Talk about that one. But, It might be sort of like the thing that's needed maybe to create more balance. So she's very like that red, very focused in the power, warrior and everything. Maybe the gentian. I mean, she does seem like, even though she is a warrior, that also she has a very cool, sort of calm, grounded demeanor to her.
You know what? I would just test it in the synergistics.
Okay, we'll do that. So go ahead and tell us your blood sugar. What are you reading there?
175.
Oh, it's high.
It could, you're on with us. The more meaningful one will be how it regulates over the next, say, 24 to 72 hours. Okay. So it'll be more meaningful.
I'll email you guys later.
Yeah, email me, Ariel@geniusbiofeedback.com, and let me know. And then, we'll sort of go from there. But hopefully what we shared with you today was significant and helpful for you in your journey.
I hope so. I'll need to listen to this again with more attention.
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube, so you can go ahead and you can watch it again. Just go to my YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Remember to share with other people and like it.
I'm already subscribed.
Thank you. So really interesting, Kelley. It is pretty much another one that's really a home run.
Look
so that's really interesting.
Look how strong that is in the body.
It's really strong. So then you could basically, now that we know the technique, and we are going to kind of wind things up in just a little bit, but now knowing the technique, you could just run this for 15 seconds or less and then retest it. So anybody watching who wants to sort of streamline what they're doing and make it a lot more efficient, you could be able to use some of Kelley's techniques and really cut down on the time. It actually, I have the interpretation in my Success Desk reference cards here, and we have here, gentian is discouragement after a setback, but moving through grief into a higher and brighter reality. really taking whatever has happened that might have caused a setback and using it to propel you forward, which is even what you sort of talked about, Kelley, with your son, that you used what happened to you to propel you forward in your life. So does any of that resonate for you, Lay?
Yes, tremendously. Learning from my lessons.
That's beautiful. All right. Well, Lay, thank you so much for joining us today, and keep me posted, because it's really going to matter more over the next few days what difference it makes. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Ariel, I just looked up red aura, and it says red aura has long been the color of passion.
It's funny that word passion really came up too.
Yep, exactly.
Let's see if we can just get 40% just for my own brain on the 40% thing, and then let's go back and test it. So as we're sort of closing things down for today and or winding it up, however you want to put it, what are some thoughts that you want to leave people with about, your practice with the Genius and recommendations for them?
Oh my gosh, just the sky's the limit. You can, honestly, best thing that we ever did, anytime that we are faced with any kind of problem like I said earlier, the miracle is that you can use it on anything. You can use it on people, on properties, physical thing, anything that if you can name it. Ariel, you've heard me say this before. We had a couple racing pigeons that showed up in our neighborhood that clearly were abused, and people started bringing them to me.
Wait, what were they racing? What pigeons?
Racing pigeons that were clearly abused and had some sort of trauma, and they were showing up in our neighborhood. And the first one was a weekday, and we immediately took it down to some bird sanctuary or something. And then the next one showed up on like a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday, and a neighbor brought it to me, and she was like, "Can you please help with this?" I think because the other one had showed up here, she brought it to us, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's a Sunday. What are we going to do?" And all of a sudden, and at the time my youngest was young, and he was like, "Mom, can we keep it as a pet?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't think so. But let's see if we can help it." And it kept falling over. It was clearly traumatized. And I was kind of desperate because A, I wanted to help it, and B, my son really wanted to keep it. Not that we were going to keep it, but I thought, okay, I don't want him traumatized. And so all of a sudden it occurred to me, I just gave it a name. I just made up a name, Colonel Pigeon. And, but
you can do anything like that. Pigeon in my backyard, pigeon who's injured, anything like that, and take a picture, and it will give you, I've done it, and it'll give you something like stress ligaments, fracture, like it'll give you such an accurate picture. So what happened ultimately?
Well, it literally was like falling over, like dead. And I literally ran it, and all of a sudden it turned around and looked at me and tried to fly away.
That's really cool. I've had experiences like that as well, where you have a bird that was shocked, and then I ran frequencies for it, and I thought it was going to end up dying in the yard. I looked an hour later, it was just gone. And you could only assume when that would be too fast for a predator to get it. And so, yeah.
So literally, all I can say is the sky's the limit. And I've told you this, Ariel, I truly believe that this is the answer to if we go into a recession, if we do have shortages like they're talking about. I haven't tested this, but I believe if we can't get fertilizer, I've run it on plants in our yard, and
that's going to be the next thing, is going to be using frequency to grow plants. And I don't have that book with me, but there's a book called Psychotronics. Sounds a little crazy, but it literally is a book about using radionics and dowsing to grow food. So the Genius is just another form of that, a more advanced form, and easier to use form. And you could take something like the Genius frequencies, and you could point and broadcast the rodent coil over your fertilizer, over your seeds, over your growing seedlings. And there's so many things that you can do. We also have the larger, this broadcasting plate, and this has a lot more room. You can use this in the same way. And so you can put seeds on this. You could actually, like the water hose, you can just prop this down and think of this as sort of laying down, and then the water hose goes over it. There's just so many applications. You could charge up, big watering can on this. There's a lot of things that you can do. Like you said, the sky's the limit. And I believe that spirit and the universe is opening this up to provide us with these types of technologies and tools so that we can thrive through the sort of transitional time that we're going through. Now, just to wind everything up with a bow, I really am glad that everybody's been watching live and everybody's been watching on this, on the Zoom. It's so cool because Kelley, your method works. And I want to explain exactly what we've seen here, that I really want everybody going away from this to start to think about Kelley's method of the quick balancing technique and how she recognizes that the time factor is tremendously important. Because what we did, Kelley, is, let's look at the pictures now, is we started with that gentian, right? And look at the gentian resonating. And I did 2 minutes until I reached, when I was happy, 42% rectification. And now look at, when we retested it, it was exactly as Kelley said. So the circles kind of retreated and now it's no longer needed. So she uses this as a monitor method, which I think is brilliant. And it really saves time because, quite frankly, Kelley, you never have time. You're running around, you're taking care of properties, you're taking care of kids, and sort of out of necessity, I think you came up with this efficient way of using the Genius.
Yeah, absolutely. And it totally works. We all need to be in the mindset of, less is more, and move on to the next thing. So
move on to the next thing, just keep on moving. And your concept is, tell us about the wishes.
Oh, I need to start a company called Infinite Wishes, because exactly what I was saying earlier about what I've learned as I've gone through my life is that no matter how awful something is that you are living through in the moment, overall, as you look back, something good always comes out of it.
And just the idea of infinite wishes is that it's like as if the universe is a wish fulfilling tree. You could have anything you want. And, in our conversations, I love how you say, think about it this way. If you could just have this, and it's so true. It's such a great perspective of thinking about it.
That's how the Genius came up for me. It's literally the law of attraction, because if you're stuck in what you don't want and keep thinking and ruminating on what is happening and what you don't want, but literally what was happening is we were leaving to go out of town. I wasn't going to have all my world-class doctors with me. And I was literally beaming. If I could just do this myself. And lo and behold, it showed up. And a woman right before that too, a woman literally walked up to me at Trader Joe's one day, right before I was told about the Genius. She literally walked up to me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you have the most amazing," or she goes, "I'm psychic and you have the most amazing aura I have ever seen." And at first I was like, okay, what do you want?
You can get that at the Trader Joe's when you live in Southern California in the Encinitas sort of area. That can happen to you. Exactly. In that part of the country, which is hilarious. Kelley, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. It was really nice to have you. You have any sort of closing thoughts about this aura that came up after running the gentian?
Goodness. I think I would go to the next thing and just tap it for a couple of seconds and clear that.
To clear that, the overhead aura. It might have been when she's stressed out about her blood sugar still being high. There might have been a little bit of, oh my gosh, so a real bit of a retreat.
Look at how the gentian cooled things off. Gentian,
yeah, it really did. It really did.
Cooling agent.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, that would be the only thing, is I would just pick something to just clear that.
I will. I'll work on her afterwards. We're going to close it up because we've been going for almost 90 minutes now. But Kelley, thank you for being so generous with your time and bringing us a new perspective really about the Genius, which really is current with our times and the need to really maximize our time today. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Ariel, thank you. Literally the training that you do, and I have learned how to be the world-class doctors, thanks to the training that you provide.
It's my pleasure. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have you on the podcast again down the road. You have a wonderful rest of your day, Kelley. And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll let her go there. And it's just always a pleasure. A good friend and also just a great teacher of example that she uses with the Genius. I really appreciate her time so very, very much. And we appreciate Lay that was part of our testing today, that was a volunteer. Every week, we're going to bring this information to you, people from the Genius community, people outside of the Genius community, looking at different technologies, finding out about sacred geometry and new advances, new miraculous technologies. We'll be uploading the podcast to the different podcast platforms. If you know of someone that we should meet with on the podcast, be sure to send me a message, Ariel@geniusbiofeedback.com. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks again. Bye-bye for now.